Hey travelers, Mag here. It's been a while since I've done a live stream. In fact, since June of last year when I finished up my trip around the United States. So I thought it was a good time to reconnect with everybody and let you know what's going on. By all means, if you have any questions as we go through this, please put them down in the chat. I'll try to get to them while I'm talking through everything I want to talk about, but more likely I'll get to them at the end. So if you put them in the chat, I'll scroll back at the end. I'll address any questions that you may have. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I've got 2 people in here right now. I expect some others will tune in later. But for the most part, I find that these live streams are watched a lot more after the fact, which is fine because it's still communicating the information out there. So FF Skippy and whoever else is in the lobby, thank you for joining. First and foremost, you may notice Aichan's not with me. I'll get to why she's not with me, but just know that she's okay. She's in good health. She's with the rest of the pack. The Mag Crew's taking good care of her. She's doing 2 walks every single day. She's eating very well. She sleeps really late. If we let her, she won't get out of bed until 10, 11, sometimes noon. So we have to wake her up in the morning for those walks. But anything before about 7 to 8 a.m., it's basically dragging her out the door and setting her in the grass. And even then, it's a maybe if she's actually going to walk or not. So yeah, she likes those late morning wake ups and she likes to go to bed early. She's a senior citizen. What can I say? At 16 years old, she's earned the ability to wake up late. Skip's with her all the time. He keeps her entertained. She can't get too much sleep when he's like, okay, it's time to play. Aichan, come on, let's go play. And it is what it is. She likes the winter in Japan. And Skip, not so much. He doesn't have that thick fur coat that Aichan has. So he's cold and she's just loving that weather. And then when we get to the summertime, it's going to flip and she's going to be miserable and hot when they go outside. And Skip's going to be loving it because he soaks up that sun. No problem at all. I did kind of want to just circle back on why I started this video series in the first place, because I think that's an important part to cover before we get to where we're going next. I think I did this pretty well on my trip around the United States with Aichan, but the main purpose of this series was just to share the beautiful places that we go to and the amazing, cool places. That's not all beauty. Sometimes it's just neat places. I thought it was a good opportunity to teach the history of a lot of these places. And it's a good opportunity also to share geocaching with the community at large. There's other geocachers out there who have a lot of geocaching videos, in particular, the geocaching vlogger. Friend of mine, I've done an interview with him before. He does some pretty fantastic videos, and we're on very separate wavelengths about how we do our videos. So it's great to have another perspective out there in the community of geocaching and the places it brings you. And I think it adds pretty well together to what's already out there. And of course, I already like to travel, and it just seemed like a good opportunity to share it with everybody. So I had to figure one thing out here. All right, so I do have the ability to share my screen here. So I'm going to be flipping back and forth as we go through this and just show you guys some of the stuff I have ready here. So flip my screen over here. Give me one sec. All right. So I've got that up there. And let's see if that comes up. It does not the way I wanted. That's why I figure these things out as you go, right? One more sec here. There we go. All right, so the first thing I wanted to share out with you was we completed our goal across the United States. We geocached through 3,118 out of 3,144 counties. Now, there's auto stats out there that allow you to compile on my geocaching profile and on geocaching.com, as well as Project GC. For my purposes, I made my own map, and I kind of like this display because it shows where the county finals are, where the courthouses are, where the DeLorme pages are. And I think it's a pretty overall good display of what the U.S. county maps that we worked on look like. If you notice, Alaska at the bottom left and Hawaii at the very bottom, those are not colored in all the way, but that's going to change. We still have 4 counties left to get to in Hawaii, 22 left to get to in Alaska, and believe me, it is on the agenda. In the middle of that, we will still be working on traveling internationally. We've already done Vietnam. We stopped into Ho Chi Minh and saw Juan for the day, actually a couple of days. Made some great videos while we were there, really got to see the city, and then stopped off in China. My trip through Shanghai was supposed to be longer, but it got hit by Hurricane Babinka, which was the biggest, actually typhoon. It was the biggest typhoon that had come in since 1949 with 94-mile-per-hour winds. So I'm glad that I got delayed. I'm glad I didn't get into Shanghai when I was supposed to, because that would have been miserable. Getting down on the ground, I really only had about 3 hours on deck, and it was, first of all, it was impressive to see the devastation that it caused. But what was even more impressive and heartening was to see how the community got together to repair that damage. And you could see a lot of that in the Shanghai video. There were people out on every street that I went to that had damage, and they were all working together to get it cleaned up. I bet you within a couple of days, all but the most major things were completely fixed. It was quite impressive. In the middle of that, we were also working on the prefectures in Japan, because it's nothing if not multitasking, juggling multiple balls at the same time. I'd already done most of the north and east prefectures in the country, so I didn't really feature any of those in my video series. Instead, we were focusing on the western half of Japan, the main island of Honshu, Shikoku, and Kyushu. And we got to tour through every prefecture in Kyushu, all the prefectures in Shikoku, and most of the ones on the western half that we hadn't already been through previously. And progress-wise, share that out as well. That's our Japan map. If you look on the left half of that, that's pretty much all the videos that I've been featuring over the last few months. Everything west of that red line there. That's Shikoku down there at the bottom, this small island here. Kyushu on the southwest there, and Honshu, that's the main island here that actually extends all the way up to Hokkaido. There are 2 prefectures I was not able to get to for this video series, and I'm going to have to circle back on. That's Okinawa down here in the Ryukyu Island chain, and up here we have Yamanashi right by Mount Fuji. Both of those things will be happening. They just won't be happening yet. And why is that? Well, that's because we're working on the way ahead. I got an offer to come out to Hawaii, and at first I'd actually had another offer for Okinawa I was going to take, but the perspective that Hawaii offered was just too great of an opportunity to pass up on. Number one, I needed to complete the Hawaiian Islands out here, so it was definitely a motivating factor. And number two, if you didn't know, Hawaiian Airlines and Alaska Airlines have merged. So it's now easier than ever to get out from Hawaii to a lot of those airports in Alaska I need to get to. So it just made sense for the goals that this is a great place for me to be. I'll be joining up with a good friend of mine for a lot of the videos coming up in the near future. Florida Crafters, she's actually the one who introduced me to geocaching when we were in Bahrain back in 2010. She is a pretty impressive geocacher and a just impressive person all around. I think that you're going to enjoy having her with me on the videos, and we're going to be exploring a lot of Hawaii together. I'm based out of Oahu right now, and the main focus of a lot of the videos coming up in the near future are going to be Oahu. Unlike what I've been doing with the US and Japan, where I've been focusing on a single city area or covering a lot of miles and going through the history of that location, instead, what I'll be doing is taking on pretty much one trail at a time. I've got the Oahu Hiker's Guide, got another guide as well, and of course, I've got an awesome tour guide in Florida Crafters. We're picking trails one by one, and we're exploring our way through them. There's a lot of great geocaches hidden on the trails to help us navigate our way through, and they all offer something unique. Now, of course, I won't be focusing on a lot of the history because the trails don't necessarily have as much history, but I will be focusing on the adventure that geocaching gives us and the places that it brings us to. In addition to working on the island or working on the trails in Oahu, which is going to be the main focus, I will, as opportunity allows, still be hopping out. That's going to give me a lot of different places to get out to as well. We've got the Big Island. We've got, in total, there's 5 counties in Hawaii: Oahu, Maui, Big Island, Molokai, and I want to say Lanai off the top of my head here. Anyway, we'll be working on all 5 of those counties. At the same time, I've also got some plans for Alaska. That's another thing I wanted to share out to you and kind of show you what was going on here. So, getting a little bit better at this screen sharing if you can't tell. All right, so there's what we got coming up in Next one, right there. So there's our trail sections for Oahu. I've actually already covered several of these. You can see where those smiles are on the map, but the videos haven't been released yet. I'm intending to be very systematic about my releases moving forward. I can't do the daily thing. It's not going to work. I've got other priorities while I'm out here. But I will be going on the weekends and when opportunity allows. And so I'm spacing my videos for standard Sunday morning releases, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's going to be a standard thing moving forward. I've been trying to do shorts in the middle of the week as well. I may or may not have enough content to continue that. With Aichan back with the rest of the pack and her being the main star of my shorts, I'm not sure that's going to fly, but I am committed to continuing to release at least one video a week through the rest of the year and as far out as I can get until I've completed all the goals from where I'm at here in Oahu. I just wanted to cover some of the other islands that we'll be working through as well here. All right, so moving through these things in order, we'll be having Kauai in the very northeast. Several islands together here between Lanai, Molokai, and Maui, and each of these are going to offer several adventures. Obviously in Lanai, it's going to be one video when I get there because there's only going to be enough geocaching and exploration to sustain one video. But in Maui, I expect I'll be able to squeeze out 2 or 3, and in Molokai as well, I am expecting to be able to squeeze out a few more videos. Molokai is particularly interesting because it also holds the smallest county in the U.S. It's actually on Kalawao County on Lanai. That is where there used to be a leper colony. There are now only 80 people that live in that county, which is the second smallest by population, the smallest in Texas, but it's the smallest by size and land area. And if you look at that county on Lanai, it is very tiny. There's also almost no way to access it. You can hike out there on the trail all the way out to the village that exists if you get a permit by the health department and you get on a special tour. It is an intense hike down some pretty sheer cliffs, and it is not an easy place to get to. There's no geocaches there whatsoever. The only geocaches that qualify for the county are really just barely inside the county line. But of course, that's what we'll be doing when we get there because we're going to take what we can get wherever we can get them. Just wanted to show you some of the other trails and sections we're looking at. This is what I'm talking about right here. The lookout number 1 is the geocache that I'll be getting for that smallest county by land area and size. And if you see that trail right here going down, all those switchbacks really tell the story of how many cliffs you're going to be coming down. That is a huge drop in elevation to be able to get down to this visitors area at Kalapapa, and it is not an easy place to get to. I'm not sure that we're going to be doing it, but we will at least be coming out here to Lookout 1, and we'll be exploring the rest of the county while we're there. The big island of Hawaii is actually one of the ones I'm most excited about. There's 2 major population areas in the big island of Hawaii. On the east side, you have Hilo, and on the west side, you have 1 second here. A beer company. Well, anyway, the second population center is over here on the west side. It'll come to me later. So the plan is to fly into Hilo on the east side and take the island clockwise. We'll be coming down through Volcano National Park into South Point Park at the very bottom of the island. And this is a very big place, by the way. South Point Park covers most of this bottom part of the island, and it looks a lot like New Zealand when you look at it on the maps and other images. Coming up to the west side here, I'm not sure how much I'll have time for and the time I have planned for it, but then you've also got one of the tallest places you can get to in Hawaii, and actually what is the tallest mountain range in the world, if I remember correctly, right here at the webcam, and then back into Hilo. There's quite a bit to do on the Big Island, so I'm expecting several adventures there. Got to catch up on my notes here. All right, my second priority, in addition to finishing off the Hawaii counties, is working through Alaska. That's something that I'll be able to at least get half of done this year. The half that I'm intending to do is going to be the arm between Juneau and the north here, which is still far south in Alaska, and all the way to Ketchikan. This is the Maritime Highway. There's a ferry service that runs between all of these counties on these islands, and you can hop off on those ferries. Some of them are quick enough that you can jump off, grab a geocache or two, jump off onto the ferry. But what I'm trying to do with the time is give enough time to actually stay on each one of these counties for a day. So I'm expecting to be able to show you the entire Maritime Highway one day at a time as I work my way along this section of the Alaska Highway. That one I'm aiming to do this year. Now the farther out one, there's another good map of it that shows the Maritime Highway right there between Ketchikan and Juneau, and the ferry routes as well. The other section that I'm not committed to this year, but is definitely still on the agenda, is the second half of the counties in Alaska. There are ferry services that run all the way out to these islands on the west. And for the most part, I already have all the counties in this section that the land touches, but these island ones are very few and far between. Each one requires quite a bit of coordination to get on, find what you're doing, and get out. And my good friend Florida Travelers has already done this, so I've gotten his notes, and I will be sharing tips with him as I get closer to launch day for those islands as well. You can see the geocaches that are out here on those island counties on the western edge of Alaska, and they are few and far between. Each one of these is going to be an endeavor to get to, but that's the name of the game, getting to the farthest out locations out there and putting the check in the box for each of the counties on the map. In addition to working on Hawaii and Alaska, in general, being out here in Hawaii sets me up for a good tour of the Pacific, and I'm going to be using it to do exactly that. As you can see here from this map, this was kind of the best one I could find of what I intend. There are a lot of locations that you can hop out to from Hawaii. Of course, the problem here is the further that you get west toward Japan, the more it makes sense to come to these locations from Japan. And that's mostly a monopoly thing. United Airlines kind of controls all of the routes to most of these islands out here. So it's not very easy to get a convenient schedule, and it's definitely not very easy to get a cheap schedule. So some of these farther out eastern islands, I expect that I will be hitting here from here in Hawaii, but especially some of these more western ones that are way easier to get to from Japan, I think those will still be paused and waiting until we finish what we're doing here in Hawaii and head back over that way again. However, I am going to be capitalizing on each one of these opportunities as I see the opportunity coming up. I wanted to take you through some of the islands that we're going to be seeing here and some of the options that are on them. Tahiti, it's a nice fly-in location. For the most part, you can only come around the outer edge of the island. This whole center here is quite the endeavor. So Tahiti is really kind of a short weekend trip, and most of these islands are. Tonga has almost nothing in it, but again, aiming at getting all of these countries. And for me, I don't know if everybody sees it the same way, but if it's an American territory, for me, that's the same thing as trying to get out to a country. Fiji, this looks like a nice spot to fly in and just hang out on the beach for a day or two. No more need to go further than that. Then we've got Guam. Guam is probably one of the easiest U.S. territories to access from Hawaii, and it's definitely one that's going to be high on my to-do list. As you can see from this map, there are a ton of geocaches to go do in Guam. I'm expecting that to be a long weekend with lots of adventures to offer you as I explore the island. And I'm particularly excited about this one too, because I know there's a lot of little hidden treasures on there that you guys would be interested in seeing. The Northern Marianas Islands. Saipan is a pretty easy spot to get into, and it's a beautiful place. Definitely one that's high on the list of wanting to get to see. The Marshall Islands, it's more on the maybe list. It's really just an atoll that I've been looking at here, and it's another tough spot to get into, tightly controlled by schedules. America Samoa, this one's a little bit higher on the list, an easier spot to get to from Hawaii. The problem, of course, being that there's only very limited schedules. They do the flights about twice a week, and they're usually on weekdays, so it's not as convenient as I'd like, but it still makes a great opportunity to do from where we are here in Hawaii. Micronesia, New Caledonia, Vanuatu, the Solomon Islands, and Jakarta. As I get down this far on the list, these begin to get to the places that I think are going to be put off toward Japan. I just wanted to show you the maps real quick and show you what we've got in mind coming up. Kuala Lumpur, Papua New Guinea. Now this one is interesting because Papua New Guinea is actually 2 countries on each side of the island. So it gives me a chance to fly into one, do a few geocaches, fly over to the other side and claim 2 countries kind of for the price of one. Malaysia and Brunei, this is another one that's split. As you can see, Brunei is kind of isolated in the middle of Malaysia here. So I can be able to get 2 countries by flying in from one side or the other into Brunei. And Singapore has a lot to offer. Just give you a second to digest that map there. Right. So as you can see, I've kind of got the priorities lined up here. From Oahu, priority 1 is going to be finishing these Hawaiian counties. That is absolutely a must do. And more than just finishing the counties here in Hawaii, I'll be visiting each of the islands. So in this video series coming up through the rest of the year, you'll be seeing a lot of the trails here on Oahu because that's where I'm going to be at most of the time. But in the end, you will see each of the Hawaiian islands out here and what they have to offer for travelers coming out. Priority 2 is going to be those Alaska counties. The Maritime Highway between Juneau and Ketchikan being the easiest to get to. All the stuff on the west still need to address once we finish those. And then priority 3 is opportunity allows is hopping out to those islands in the Pacific. I already know for sure Australia's happening. That's up on the list and very soon. Beside that, I'm going to take it as it comes. And that's pretty much it. I just wanted to cover where we were going in the future, where we've already been, and let you know that I'm intending to continue this video series because I have rather enjoyed it. And I hope that you guys have enjoyed what I've put together here as well. One thing I will note is, especially people in this chat, I know that several of you have been major commenters, FF Skippy on the top of that list, but I always appreciate comments on the videos. And I always do my best to make sure that I reply to any comments that you leave. And if you have any feedback about tweaking how I'm doing things for the series, it's never too late for me to learn and adjust. I think I've got somewhat of a rhythm, but I want to create this as a product that helps to A, highlight geocaching, and B, highlight travel in ways that a lot of people can enjoy. Any comments you have to that effect will always be appreciated and considered. And before I close this thing out, looks like it will be a rather short live session. I just wanted to have an opportunity to answer any questions you may have about where we've been, all the Japan spots that we visited over the last 6 months or so, and where we're going between Hawaii, Alaska, and the Pacific. I'll give a few minutes for any questions you may have, and if there's nothing in there, I'll go ahead and close this thing out. I will say for FF Skippy, I definitely missed an opportunity with my fire truck in Tokushima that it was Firefighter Skippy on the truck. So sorry for that, but I thought about it after the fact, and you were top of my mind for that. And also you're doing Alaska and CAA, huh? In the spring, as in like March and April when there's still snow out there? That's pretty brave, FF Skippy. For my trips to Alaska, I'm waiting between the end of May, beginning of June, and I cut them off at the end of September. I'm trying to capitalize on the best weather out there in Alaska, maximum sunlight, and minimum snow conditions. Being in Hawaii has actually been phenomenal for me in that way because last winter on the road across the United States was the longest winter I've ever had in my life. That winter began in about mid-October, and it didn't really end until the end of April. And for me, that was right about the time I passed through that blizzard in Kansas is when I finally came out of it. That was solidly about 6 months worth of winter. This year, coming out to Hawaii right at the beginning of winter and now staying out here, I've had 0 days of winter. It's been spring and summer all day long for me. No complaints whatsoever. And Sherry, I appreciate you checking in. I know that you'll be hosting the event in Floresville coming up here, and there's a lot of geocachers who are very excited to get down there for Texas. If you haven't had a chance to check out the event that they're hosting down there, They have a lot of great stuff set up, including the GPS Adventure Maze exhibit. For my part, I'm actually going to be in Japan that weekend when they're hosting the event, so I can't make it down there. But I will be sending all of my best geocaching wishes down to Floresville, that you guys have a great time down there. All right, and that's it. Covered all my notes, covered through my maps. I think that I've communicated pretty well what we got coming up ahead, and I'm pretty excited about it too, because I'll share out my screen one more time. I've actually been working pretty hard on this. We'll do it this way. So, apparently that's not going to work. Try this instead. Go. All right, let's see if I can share one last screen with you guys. No, it is not going to let me. Well, the last thing that I was trying to share that it's not letting me do is that I have actually been stacking up videos. I got here to Hawaii in November. And so the entire time I've been releasing videos of my Japan travels for the last couple of months, I've actually been getting ahead on what we've been doing here in Hawaii. So I've got a pretty good stack of videos coming up for you guys. And I know that we're going to be set at least through the end of the year on all the trails we've been seeing out here. But I don't see any questions in the chat. And that's all I had to cover. I appreciate everybody checking in. Thank you very much for joining this live stream. And I really hope that you enjoy the videos that we have coming out for you in the near future. Thank you, guys.